Who is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart? Mozart was born in 1756 in Salzburg, Vienna. To his father, Leopold Mozart, he was raised at a very young age to practice and to compose. At 9 years old, he was already writing his first symphonies. Along with his sister Nannerl, they toured Europe and practiced in front of kings and monarchs and queens. Now, Mozart is the most profound and prolific composer that has ever lived, influencing the likes of Beethoven. Now, Mozart lived in the Enlightenment era, and the Enlightenment roots can be traced back all the way to the Renaissance. And Enlightenment thinkers and ideals sparked the French and American Revolution. The Enlightenment really just means to enlighten, to shed light on, away from darkness, which is linked to obscurity and mistakes. Many great thinkers have came out of the Enlightenment era, such as Bacon, John Locke, Hobbes, and Descartes. These thinkers shaped the way that modern society thinks today. Mozart composed many great works, such as Don Giovanni, The Magical Flute, and The Marriage of Figaro, during the Enlightenment era. Now, he was a member of the Freemasons, which was a group that anyone could join, and allowed common workers, common people, to rise above their ranks. And which, in a society that often didn't allow for people to do that back then. And Mozart was a part of that. He also wanted his work to be shown and allowed to be distributed and given to the common people. He wrote his work for the commoners. And he was a firm believer that the commoners were just as good as the noble people. And the noble people were no better or worse than the commoners, which was a radical idea for that time. Because Mozart wasn't born into wealth, he wasn't born noble, but he was skilled. He was born talented, and he used that to rise above his social status. And that is why he wanted common people to listen to his music during the Enlightenment era. Mozart's sister, Nannerl, is a story of a tragedy. Now, we will never know what would have happened if she was allowed to continue composing, if it was accepted at that time for her, but it wasn't. Now, her father, Leopold, allowed her to practice composing at a young age to attract a mate, to attract a husband. Now, but after she got to a certain age where she matured, society looked down upon women composing. But she would still continue to compose with the support of her brother Mozart. They would write each other and tell each other and critique each other in secret. And we know this because Mozart and Nannerl, they would often destroy a lot of their work. Because Mozart was so brilliant, he was able to memorize what they were writing about and composing about. But Nannerl, too, she was a genius within herself. She was an amazing composer. She was great. Nannerl, too, was also influenced by the Enlightenment era. She, too, helped compose and write drafts and write symphonies and orchestras that influenced the same ideals that Mozart believed in and believed in the common person, even though it was looked down upon in that society. Storm and Drang. Storm and Stress. Light and Darkness. In the 1980s, a movie came out called Amadeus, and it inaccurately portrayed the life of Mozart. It told the story through the eyes of another Enlightenment composer that lived throughout the time of Mozart, and his name was Salieri. Now, it is hypothesized that Salieri was the cause of Mozart's premature death at the young age of 35. But that has just been only a rumor. A false rumor. Now, Salieri may have not killed Mozart, but Mozart may have killed Mozart by his tremendous work ethic and his obsession of perfection. It can be said that Mozart worked himself to death. Now, Mozart has composed some of the most astounding, memorable musical songs that will last throughout the ages. And he has influenced many other composers, and he will never be forgotten. In conclusion, Mozart's impact on the world has been a domino effect. His passion for music, his ability to grab the attention of anyone will stand the test of time. Now, his effect on the Enlightenment era and his workings with the church has influenced many men and patriarchs and kings and queens and leaders of this world. It is without question that Mozart is and will forever will be the greatest classical composer of all time, and his work is still studied and celebrated to this very day. His genius, his poise, is celebrated every day in his hometown of Salzburg, Vienna, where you can buy chocolates with his face on it, posters, and copies of his work that can be sold at a local vendor shop. But he is much more than that. He is a symbol of the common working person. He is a symbol of hope. And for that, and the Enlightenment era, Storm and Drang, he will, for always, will be remembered.